So today I want to go over some more leaks or data mined information for the upcoming PTR for Diablo 4, and more specifically, this is all information of items that are going to be either in Season 6 of Diablo 4 or in the Vessel of Hatred. And this video is going to be focused on some new consumable items, some of which being very interesting. Now the first three of these consumables seem to be some new permanent additions to Diablo 4, and these are all rare elixirs, which we currently don't have any permanent rare elixirs in the game. We had some seasonal rare elixirs in Season 4, but those did not go forward into Season 5. And these three elixirs also seem to be a bit more grouped focused. So first off, we have Elixir of Aggression, increases your damage reduction by 10%, and after killing 20 enemies, your next core skill taunts nearby enemies. Now all three of these rare elixirs also increase your experience by 8%, which is the same amount that our current magic elixirs give. And I think the reason for that is they don't want these rare elixirs to just always be better than the magic elixirs. And with the raid coming in Vessel of Hatred, I think these group focus elixirs are kind of going to be more geared towards that. So like this one gives you damage reduction, and then your next core skill after killing 20 enemies can taunt enemies. So this elixir kind of being focused around you being the tank. And then we have Elixir of Swift Revival, increases healing by 10% and revive speed by 25%, and after reviving a player, you gain 10% more move speed for 5 seconds. This elixir being themed around you being a healer, and also this increases just your healing by 10%. That'll be on you and other players if you have anything that heals other players. And then finally, we have Elixir of Tailwind, which increases your move speed by 5%, and you leave behind a trail that grants other players 5% move speed for 5 seconds. And I think this elixir is supposed to be themed around you being a DPS, so you can get to the enemies more quickly, but I don't think the amount of move speed this gives you makes this thing useful at all. I think they would have to give you like 25% for this thing to be useful in any form, but I do think getting some seemingly permanent rare elixirs that give more unique effects is actually a good route for these to take. But that brings us to 5 new elixirs that seem to be Season 6 specific, because all of these also have the little leaf that is the seasonal symbol. So if you ever see that little leaf, it usually means something that is specific to a season. And all 5 of these seemingly season specific rare elixirs all give an experience gain of 15%, so almost double the normal elixirs. And that's actually really strong because the experience gain from consumables is multiplicative with the experience gains you get from things like going up in world tier. So that's actually a lot of experience. But all of these 5 elixirs are also much more interesting and actually give us some information on what Season 6 is going to be. So first, we have Seething Opal of Socketables. So enemies have a chance to drop Socketables on death, and I think the reason these are called Socketables is because these are probably going to be both gems and rune words. Even though this is season specific, I would assume that this would also allow you to get runes if you have purchased Vessel of Hatred. But all 5 of these elixirs also include that kills grant reputation for Zacharum remnants. Now this part gives a glimpse of what Season 6 may be, because the Zacharum is basically the Church of the Light on Sanctuary, and it would make sense that there may be remnants of the Zacharum that we are fighting with that now has a reputation with Season 6. A lot of our previous seasons have reputation tracks, and I would fully expect these reputation tracks to continue with every new season. And we did also get one of the new mythic items revealed that had a damage increase to angels and demons, so this may also be where we fight some angels and demons. And all of these other seasonal elixirs also give the 15% increased experience and the reputation on kills, but they all do drop different items. So we also have a Seething Opal of Murmuring Opal, so enemies have a chance to drop opals on death. So if you're really into gambling, you can pop one of these. We have Seething Opal of Masterworking, so enemies have a chance to drop masterworking materials on death. This one seems like it's going to be ridiculously strong and probably the most used one. It will be interesting to see how the materials are actually divided, because obviously we have the 3 different tiers of masterworking materials. So it will be interesting to see on how this actually works. If it's any enemies can just randomly randomly drop any of them, or if you have to be in a certain difficulty to get the next tier of masterworking materials. Then we have the seething opal of crafting, so enemies have a chance to drop crafting materials on death. And then finally, we have a seething opal of chaos, so enemies have a chance to drop the reward from any other seething opal on death. So this is the one, if you don't care which type of material you're actually getting, you can just pop this and you'll be able to get the materials from any of the other elixirs we just went over. So these elixirs are pretty interesting for the next season. These obviously being built around you being able to choose the rewards you're getting over getting a specific power increase. But you're also going to be getting that increased experience and the reputation gains. So you're always going to want at least one of these pop. And the final consumables I want to go over are the ones you'll be able to buy with the new Dark Citadel currency. The Dark Citadel currency is basically the raid coming with the expansion. There'll be a currency you can get in there and you'll be able to spend it at a vendor. And we got to look at a bunch of the different items you'll be able to buy, specifically consumables. Starting off, we have the Scroll of Restoration. This is the thing that restores tempering charges to an item. Now we have gotten some more information specifically on this item. So the data mined version of this item says it will restore 4 tempering charges on an item. This has been confirmed to be an old version, so this will be changed. I think presumably to be that it just gives you all tempering charges back. And we do know you can get the scroll just through doing the Dark Citadel, and then you can get it from the currency from the Dark Citadel from this vendor. We do also know this item will have a small chance to just be dropped from pretty much any enemy you're killing in the game, so it'll just be a rare drop from doing anything. But this is also one of the most hyped up items coming with the expansion, just being able to essentially unbrick an item. So if you get a really good item, you temper it and you don't get the tempers you need, using this very rare item to re-get all of your temper charges is going to be really strong. And then we have another item that is very interesting and is probably going to be really well liked, and this is Scroll of Khazra shards, used to increase the level of monsters by 10 and the rewards in Rise to the First Khazra Dark Citadel. So this is basically increasing the level and the rewards in the first raid. Now in the data mine version of this, it does not say if this is stackable at all. Presumably it will be, because this is basically just the mine cage just in the Dark Citadel, and I really like them adding this to more pieces of content. It is really nice to have like these consumable items that you can just use to increase the difficulty and rewards of a piece of content you're doing. And that is something the developer said is a big push in Diablo 4 right now, to allow you to choose basically the difficulty and rewards of any content you're doing. So it is nice they're also adding this as an option for the raid. And then we have a Scroll of Grave Oil, which seems kind of useless, used to prevent durability loss on your next 2 deaths. Now the only reason I could see this being useful is that the Dark Citadel ends up being really difficult, or you're on a really high difficulty of it and you're dying a lot, and maybe you can get a lot of these scrolls very easily, so maybe you just keep popping these so you don't have to constantly repair while trying boss fights in the raid. And then we have a Scroll of Generosity, used to revive up to 3 nearby players. Now I'm wondering if this is in combat. The first thing I thought of this is that it's basically just mass resing from World of Warcraft. All of the healer specs get a spell that when out of combat you can just cast a mass res on everybody, so this would just allow you to res everybody back really quickly. But then I also thought there's not really a reason for this, because if you wiped on a fight, you would all start at the same area when you revived. So that brings me to that this item is going to actually be usable while in a fight, which is pretty crazy. And if that's the case, this is probably going to be pretty expensive. Just being able to res your whole group while in a fight is pretty crazy. It would also most likely have a long cooldown. And then we have Scroll of Forging, used to summon an anvil that can be used by 4 players to repair their gear. And this is also something that we have in World of Warcraft, where specifically the engineer profession can drop like an item that people can repair on. This does make sense for the raid as well, where if you're in a group and you're just trying to get repetitions on a boss so you can get better at the mechanics, it makes sense you could just drop this so you can all repair right there and not have to worry about like teleporting back to town, then coming back and having to go through multiple load screens. You just pop this down, all repair, and get back to fighting the bosses. And then we have probably the most exciting one, which was shown off during Gamescom, Scroll of Contained Goblins. Use while in a dungeon to summon a treasure goblin from another realm. And I think this has a 30-second cooldown if I'm not mistaken, so you could potentially just stack these up and then just go on a goblin killing spree. And I do really like this, so if you don't want any of those like quality of life things to use while in the raid, you could just buy a bunch of these with the raid currency and just go farm up a bunch of goblins. Now the only thing we need is all of the different goblin types added in from Diablo 3. And then finally we have a Scroll of Abundance, used to restore 30% health and drop health potions for nearby allies. And this presumably will also be able to be used in combat. Now the health itself isn't that crazy because 30% health isn't ridiculous, but dropping health potions is, because usually on boss fights you only get health potions if they have ads or in the certain sections of a boss's health. And sometimes you could start to run out of potions depending on what boss it is and how many potions it's going to be giving you. So being able to just drop some in the middle of a fight can actually be really strong, especially since it does seem like we have some new potion uses with some new items coming with the expansion. This could potentially be really strong for that as well. Now also keep in mind, this is just the data mined information. It did look like there were more items on that vendor that you could buy with the raid currency. So there's potentially more consumables that we don't yet know of that you'll be able to buy with that new currency from the Dark Citadel. But overall, I do think a lot of these are pretty interesting. Some of them just being some quality of life things, some of them being incredibly strong in fights, and some of them just being really cool, like being able to just use that currency to summon goblins. And overall, I do like the direction they're going in with all these consumables. I think consumables can be really interesting. Right now, they're just super boring. They're just like base stat increases. Adding in consumables for a lot more elements of the game and just making them do a lot more interesting things will make consumables as an idea just much more interesting as well. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.